Level 1, the last normal morning. You wake up at 7 a.m., same apartment, same alarm, same coffee. Nothing about this morning looks different from any other morning in the last 3 years. The refrigerator makes its usual noise. The sofa has the same worn patch on the left armrest. Your shoes are by the door where you always leave them. You make your coffee and sit at the small kitchen table and look out the window at the ordinary street below and think about nothing in particular. But there is an email on your phone. From your lawyer. It says, "We need to talk today." You sit at the kitchen table with your coffee and read it 4 times. Then you put the phone down and finish your breakfast and try not to think too hard about what it might mean. The law firm is quiet when you arrive. Your lawyer sits across from you at the large wooden desk and puts a document in front of you and explains what happened. The acquisition went through. The other company accepted the final terms. Everything is done. He points to a line near the bottom of the first page and waits. You look at the number. You read it again. You read it a 3rd time because your brain simply will not accept it on the first 2 attempts. You sign. You shake hands. You walk outside into the ordinary city street and sit down on a bench and stare at nothing for a very long time. People walk past carrying bags. A bus goes by. A delivery driver locks his bicycle to a post. The world continues as if absolutely nothing happened. When you finally look at your phone, the bank app has already updated. The number is still there. It is real. You go back to the apartment. You walk through every room slowly and look at everything as if seeing it for the first time. You run your hand along the worn armrest of the sofa. You stand in front of the refrigerator and just listen to it making its noise. You look at the shoes by the door. You look at the small television. Everything is exactly the same as it was this morning, and nothing will ever be the same again. You call your parents. Your mother asks you to repeat the number twice. Your father does not say anything for almost a full minute. You lie on the sofa and stare at the ceiling, and at 2 a.m. you are still awake watching the shadows from the streetlight move slowly. Across the wall above you, Next morning you take a taxi to a car dealership. You walk in wearing your ordinary clothes and a salesman in a perfect suit comes over immediately and does not look at your clothes even once. You point at the red one by the window. He shows you the interior, the engine, the options. You hand over a card. When you walk out, he holds the door open, and something about the way he does it is different from any door anyone has ever held open. For you before in your entire life, you buy a suit that costs more than your first month's rent ever did. You buy a watch. You drive past your old apartment building slowly and look up at it from the car. Then you keep driving and you do not go back. The real estate agent shows you 12 properties over 2 days. You sign for the villa on the 3rd day. She hands you the keys, smiles professionally, and drives away down the long tree-lined driveway. You stand alone in the entrance hall. The silence is enormous. You walk from room to room across the marble floors and every single step echoes because there is no furniture. And you do not know where to sit. So eventually you sit on the floor, in the middle of the empty living room and look up at the very high ceiling above. The staff arrives the following morning. A butler, a private chef, a driver, a financial advisor. They line up at the front door and introduce themselves one by one, and you shake each hand and say nice to meet you and feel genuinely strange about all of it. The chef makes you something you cannot identify, but it is the best thing you have ever eaten. The butler brings coffee on a silver tray without being asked. You say thank you too many times, and he pretends very professionally not to notice. You book the private jet on a Tuesday afternoon. There is no queue at the terminal. No security line. No waiting at a gate surrounded by strangers. You walk across the tarmac in the morning light and climb the stairs and sit down in a seat wide enough to sleep in, and before you have even thought to ask someone, brings you a glass of champagne on a small tray. When the plane lifts off and the city falls away beneath you, you look out the oval window and for the first time since sitting on that bench outside the law firm, you smile. A real one. Not polite, real. You land in Monaco. A car is waiting at the bottom of the stairs. The hotel suite is the size of your old apartment multiplied by 4, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private terrace looking out over the harbor and the sea and the city all at once. That evening, a crew takes you out on a yacht and the sun sets over the Mediterranean and the sky turns. Every shade of orange and pink and gold, and you sit there with a drink in your hand watching it and thinking that this is genuinely the most beautiful thing you have ever witnessed. Later that night, you are alone on the sweet terrace. City lights below you. Stars above, phone silent on the table, and you think about 2 mornings ago, the alarm at 7, The coffee at the small table, the worn sofa, the refrigerator making its noise. Your shoes by the door. It was 2 days ago, and it feels like someone else's life. It feels like a photograph of a person you used to know. You pick up your phone and scroll to an old friend's name. You think about calling for a long time. Then you put the phone back down without calling and sit with that feeling for a while. You go inside. You turn the lights off one by one, moving through the suite. You sit on the edge of the enormous bed in exactly the same way you always sat on the edge of your small, ordinary bed. Same posture. Same hands resting on your knees. But the ceiling above you is completely different. The room around you is completely different. Everything is different now. You close your eyes, tomorrow will be like this. And every day after that, for the rest of your life, you are not sure yet whether that is the best thing that has ever happened to you. But it is the most real thing. And somewhere in this quiet, enormous room, you are still just the person who set an alarm for 7 in the morning 2 days ago and made coffee and looked at a worn sofa and had absolutely no idea what was coming.